I guess some people will just never learn. No matter how many examples that we have seen, no matter how many times it has been proven that this does not work, some people just refuse to learn, refuse to listen. I guess they prefer learning this valuable lesson the hard way. The lesson I'm talking about, it's actually a two-part lesson. One, you never apologize for something when you haven't done anything wrong. And number two, and this is the most important part, you never, ever, ever apologize to social justice warriors. Ever. You never apologize to woke Twitter. I don't even care if you're in the wrong. You don't apologize to these people. If you offend them, you're doing something right. You should feel like you accomplished something great if you have offended the woke. These people are the lowest of the low, the dregs of society. Other than possessing the innate ability to be offended by any and everything, the only other purpose of a social justice warrior is converting oxygen to carbon dioxide. The trees, the plants, they appreciate them for doing that. Even if you're in the wrong, there's a reason you don't apologize to the identifiers. You put yourself in a lose-lose scenario. You're never going to appease them with an apology. It's not going to be good enough. They're going to view an apology as a sign of weakness and continue to stay on top of you until they force you into compliance. But what also happens when you apologize to the unemployables, you lose the respect of normal people. And when I say normal people, I'm talking about the 92% of the American population that thinks social justice warriors are useless assholes. Annie Agar has chosen to learn this lesson the hard way. Now, I'm sure many of you are unfamiliar with her. She just came onto my radar this past NFL season. She has had quite the meteoric rise to fame in the sports world. 2 years ago, Annie Agar was unknown. She started out doing these parody videos on the NFL, built a following online. She parlayed that into a gig with Bally Sports, where I believe she's a sideline reporter for college football games. Annie Agar is talented. She's funny. She's charismatic. She is everything Katie Nolan and Michelle Beadle wish they could be. The only thing Katie Nolan and Michelle Beadle contributed was a pretty face. Neither could maintain an audience over the long term. Annie Agar is more than just a pretty face, but let's be honest here. Annie Agar's fine as fuck. I mean, look at her. Gay men would have a difficult time resisting Annie Agar. She's a beautiful woman, no doubt about it. Part of what makes her so appealing and contributed to her rise in the sports media world was her ability to be funny. In order to be funny, you have to make jokes. You have to make fun of people. It kind of comes with the territory. You make jokes, people laugh. We used to call that comedy. Now it's called offensive. In case you didn't get the memo, you are not allowed to make fun of people anymore, even if it's satire, parody. You must consider their feelings and the feelings of others. Luckily for us here on the channel, we don't give a fuck about your feelings. So we make fun of people on a daily basis, mostly people who deserve it. People like Stephen A. Smith, the 54-year-old virgin. You know what? They should make a movie about Stephen A. It would be extremely compelling. The story writes itself. How a man goes 54 years, over 20 of those years in the public eye, and has never touched a woman. It would be the blueprint for young men across the country of what not to do if you want to get laid. Last Sunday, Annie Agar took to Twitter and expressed her disappointment with it being the first Sunday without NFL football. We can all relate to that. We can all feel the same pain. Sundays have a different feel, a different meaning during the fall and winter months. Her tweet read, "It's Sunday and no one is playing football. I guess we all feel like Jags fans today." Innocent enough, a little dig at fans of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but with there only being like 3 or 4 Jags fans across the country, you would figure nothing would come of this innocent little tweet. But you would figure wrong. Enter Jesse Sykes, chairman of the Chicago chapter of Lonely Guys Who Never Get Laid. Look at this guy. Legs crossed, wearing women's shorts. This dude sees a hot woman like Annie Agar and he gets immediately triggered. He would be the perfect co-star in the Stephen A. Smith movie I just talked about. Jesse Sykes. He didn't have anything to do on Sunday. Much like every other day of the week, Jesse Sykes had nothing but time and lotion on his hands. He spent hours pilfering through 10 years worth of tweets from Annie Agar. He finds a handful of tweets that he knew would trigger his fellow virgins on Twitter. Here they are. Take a look at them. Do you find any of these to be the least bit offensive? She makes a negative reference to Hillary Clinton. Who fucking cares? Hillary Clinton is universally despised. She says Colin Kaepernick should get off his ass and stand for the national anthem. Clearly, the NFL felt the same way. We haven't seen Colin Kaepernick in the league since. He calls Annie Agar a racist because she uses the word hood in a tweet about Felix Hernandez. How come the hood can be glorified in music? I grew up listening to rap music. Today, I still listen to the rap music that I grew up on. It's kind of nostalgic for me. It takes me back to some of the best times in my life. The hood, the ghetto, whatever you want to call it, it is glorified throughout the music. But when a white girl uses it as a reference with a minority baseball player, somehow it's racist. Is it racist when NASCAR fans are labeled rednecks? No, for the most part, it's true. I don't blame Jesse Sykes for this. He's only behaving in his nature. It would be like me blaming the skunk for spraying me when I got too close to it. You get close to a skunk, it's in their nature to spray you with their shit stain. It's the same with social justice warriors. It is in their nature to spray their shit stain on you when they're offended. I can't blame something for behaving the way nature intended. At this point, we all know that SJWs are useless. Their opinion doesn't matter. They're always offended. Everything's either racist, homophobic, or genderphobic. I'm not sure if that's even a word. If it isn't, I just gave the woke agenda a new term. I guess genderphobic would apply to people who are non-binary and are afraid to say what gender they belong to. Anyway, who I do blame in this ordeal is Annie Agar. She receives a little bit of heat, a little bit of resistance, and I mean a little bit. It wasn't like these tweets made the news cycle. She could have and should have ignored this, and within 24 hours, it goes away. Instead, she doesn't even give it a full 24 hours to evaporate. At midnight Monday morning, Annie Agar tweets this apology. Why? Why? You said it yourself in your apology. You were a teenager when you tweeted this. No reasonable person holds an adult accountable for things they said when they were a teenager. We all say things at 15, 16 years old that we would never say at 35, or in the case of Annie Agar, 25. Not to mention the fact that nothing you said was offensive. Hell, none of it was even alarming. I wouldn't even call it controversial. It's nothing but the musings of a teenage girl. Like I said a few minutes ago, apologies like this don't do you any favors because the losers you're apologizing to will not accept it. I looked at some of the responses to Annie Agar's apology. I was not surprised at what I saw. One astute observer noted that in one of her tweets, Annie Agar was not a teenager. She was 20 years old at the time. Another came from a concerned parent. He, she, they, them. Who knows what fucking pronouns this identifier prefers? This concerned parent claimed that their daughter was Annie Agar's biggest fan until she saw these old tweets. But ever since she saw them, she has been in her bedroom crying. If your daughter is so emotionally fragile that tweets from a complete stranger from 5, 6, 7 years ago causes her to have a breakdown, causes her to break down in tears, you are failing as a parent. Your daughter doesn't need to be on social media. She needs to be on medication. And I'm not being critical of the child when I say that. I'm criticizing the supposedly concerned parent who likely made all of this shit up anyway. Part of me wants to believe that Annie Agar is not this weak. Part of me wants to believe that Bally Sports forced her to apologize. We all know how these large media companies are run by pussies afraid of SJWs. It is entirely plausible. Matter of fact, it is likely that Annie Agar was forced to issue an apology by her bosses at Bally Sports. If that's the case, even though I understand it, I still don't agree with it. Because Annie Agar is sacrificing her dignity, her freedom to speak for a paycheck. She did exactly what they wanted her to do, fall into compliance. I don't know how much money Bally Sports is paying her, but it ain't enough to comply with woke Twitter. 20 years ago, if you wanted a platform in media, you had to go through a media outlet. But that's no longer the case. Annie Agar built her own following on social media. She doesn't need Bally Sports. If she refused to apologize, what were they going to do to her? Fire her? It would have been the best thing that happened to her career because normal people would have supported her in whatever she decided to do next. Annie Agar would have been the sympathetic victim of cancel culture. Look at what happened when they tried to cancel Dave Chappelle. It actually boosted his career. When you find yourself in a situation like this, especially if you haven't done anything wrong, you can use cancel culture to your advantage. Take the heat for a couple of days. It's only temporary. Then use it to boost your reach, boost your platform. It works. It's how Howard Stern made a career in radio. It's how Eminem became a legend in music. Marilyn Manson made millions by shocking people and being controversial. Although it wasn't at the level that we see now, there was a cancel culture in the 90s. I mean, it wasn't called that, but it still existed to a certain extent. Back then, it was far right politicians and religious leaders. Today, it's pimply faced virgins and race baiters. At least the people who feigned offense in the 90s had juice, had power. The people who get offended today have no power unless we give it to them. All right, let me know what you guys think. These old tweets from Annie Agar, do you think they're even remotely offensive? What do you think of her apologizing? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, kc_btl84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.